2, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning worship service at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York. I am Donna Alcorn, and I will be helping to lead our service this morning. Reverend Terry is not in the pulpit today, though she will be presenting a brief message about the annual meeting after this service. Today, our lay-led service is dedicated to our efforts as a church community to maintain worship services during this COVID pandemic. The challenges, the unexpected lessons, and the lightheartedness that keeps us on an even keel. This Sunday, we are pleased to share with you some music played by Diane Crea and David Stevenson, as well as hymns by Denise Ekstrom, Gretchen Decker, Avery Clark, and Lydia Polis. Our service morning is being brought to you via Zoom, thanks to Telsa, Telefero, and Deb Cover, who are in the sanctuary this morning. Now here is Reverend Curry with a special announcement.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York's Sunday morning worship service. I'm Reverend Terry Cummings. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, it's my pleasure to be the minister here at UUCY. One of the great gifts that I have received during my time here as the minister is the wonderful worship committee and the other lay support for Sunday morning services. And today, our worship service is being brought to you by the lay members of the congregation, not by me. Normally, I get to take these Sundays off, but today is our congregational meeting, and there's also other reasons for me to be here. So I'm very grateful to Robert Felton and Donna and all those who have organized today's worship service for letting me have a few minutes to speak at the beginning of our service. And the first thing I'd like to share with you is the real joy that we have 10 new members of the congregation who have joined us just in the last couple of weeks. And they're mostly younger people, some young families with young children. And it's such a wonderful joy to know that our congregation is growing. And while we won't be doing a formal membership covenant service this morning, I do want to recognize them. Their names are printed in the email that went out on Friday, but I'd like to lift them up and introduce you to them today because they will also be participating in our annual meeting. And our new members are Hilary Anderson, Michael Anderson, Lizzie Goheen, Carol Greer, Shelley Hoadley, Samantha Gould, Emily Wilson, Tom LaForgia, Carol Page Potter, and Mary Rosario. Please join me in welcoming them to our wonderful UUCY community. I share with all new members and all new visitors that people who come here change us and are changed by us, and that is just a wonderful process. Thank you for joining and welcome. The other thing that I would like to share with you this morning is what I hope becomes a new tradition here at UUCY, and that is to present on the day of our annual meeting Pillar of the Congregation Awards to those people who really stand out as contributing to the life of our community. There are many, many people who go above and beyond the call to make our congregational life here so worthwhile and so meaningful. And it's really very hard to come up with a short list of all the people who are deserving of this award. And in fact, this year it was impossible to really honor everybody. During the few short months that I've been here, I watch things and I take note of who's doing what, and I take great pride and joy in seeing people contribute to our congregational life. And so today we will honor 4 individuals who have shone brightly. They are not the only ones, and I will share with you that there are many others who I already have on my list for next year because we could not simply honor everyone. So there are 4 individuals who I'll be awarding. I and Steve Snell, our board president, will be awarding Pillar of the Congregation Awards to today. 2 of them can't be here, and I will share their names with you first. First is Robert Felton. Robert is the chair of our worship committee and has probably put in as many hours as I have since I got here as your minister, working so hard, so diligently behind the scenes, calling people, coming up with readings and music, coordinating with Gretchen and the choir, and so many things that Robert does day in, day out to make our Sunday morning services so enjoyable and so special. And so we honor him today with a Pillar of the Congregation Award. And the second person on our list is Jim Hershey. Since I arrived back in August, I've noticed that when things get broken, Jim is one of the people who automatically seems to fix them. Things sort of just get fixed without my even being involved. And I see Jim on the ground with digging holes and doing all sorts of work day in, day out. I know that there are many others who join Jim in this work, but today it gives me great pleasure to share a Pillar of the Congregation Award with Jim Hershey for his work with deep gratitude. And we're fortunate today to have 2 other recipients of this award physically present here in the sanctuary. And I'm going to invite Corlyn Griggs to step up first so I can share her award with her. And I would say that Corlyn just is the mother of the congregation. I hope you can hear me speak through this mask. Corlyn, you're just there whenever there's an event, anytime there's a need for food or fun or just anything, you show up day in, day out. Things appear in my office like a box of tissues that I never even asked for. You're just so thoughtful and kind, and I want to personally thank you for making the first year of my ministry here an incredible joy and blessing. Here is your award. I hope you can show it up to the camera after you open it. In order to avoid the virus being spread, I'm going to open the box and invite you to take the plastic out and maybe show the award up to the camera. It's dated May 17th, but this plaque recognizes Corlyn Griggs as a pillar of our congregation. Thank you so much, Corlyn. And the next recipient of our award is someone who, since I first arrived here, have seen him on a tractor in 90-degree weather, perspiring and still going, day in, day out. Again, Charles Kress, you are just one of those people who shows up day in, day out, night in, night out, weekend in, weekend out. You are here, breaking your back for this congregation. Thank you. I'm so happy to present this award to you.
If I may, I'd like to say something.
Of course.
I'm only here today to see this on behalf of my colleague, the most important person at the minute, that is Francis. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And before I go, I can't not acknowledge what's going on in the world around our congregation.
It's so important that we continue our religious services as normal, as best we can, during the pandemic. Our buildings may be closed, but our church and our ministry are open and ongoing. And in this past week, we have seen so much going on in the outside world that we cannot ignore, that are troubling all of us, that are troubling me. And so I'd like you to, I'm inviting you at this time, just to take a moment, maybe close your eyes, take a deep breath. I'm going to ask you to pray or meditate with me for just a couple of minutes before we continue with this morning's service. Will you pray with me now? Spirit of life and love that is inside each one of us, that moves between us. Our country is deeply, deeply wounded. We are a people who are crying out for reconciliation, forgiveness, and above all for justice, for equity, for compassion, for democracy. In these troubled times, help us to remain strong. Help us to keep our faith. Help us to know that it is our role to show up, to be an ally, to be an accomplice for all of those who are struggling against violence, oppression, and brutality. Great Spirit, be with us in the months ahead as we join in the struggle to bring our voices into the chaos. May we bring hope. May we bring peace. May we bring wisdom. May we bring strength into our world and into our community. And may all those who are suffering pain, all those who are grieving, all those who are fearful, feel joy, peace, and rest when all else comes to rest. May justice prevail. Holy One, may it be so. Amen. Thank you.
And so we come together again this morning for worship and fellowship as we greet old friends and new visitors alike. In keeping with our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we light the chalice as we begin our service. We invite you to light a candle at home as well. Our chalice lighting words today were written by Atticus Connor. We call this light before us in hope that we may always remain a strong community, working together to make this world a better place. When we are grieving or sad, when we are challenged, when we need help, this flame guides us out of the darkness. When we are cheerful, when we celebrate, when we accomplish a great task, when we return to a place that makes us happy, this chalice reminds us to share our happiness with others. And now we will sing hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry, We Live, We Die.
We Our opening reading was written by Karen Belvance Grace in praise of technology and social media, in praise of computers and routers and servers and all the hardware and software that can help us build our connectedness, in praise of all the gremlins that live in the machines and bug our programs and help us to practice patience, in praise of the trolls who dwell in the internet and push us to live out our first principle, real time, in praise of power surges that eat our data and devour our final draft, for giving us the opportunity to rebuild and remember that our work is as much transient as it is transcendent. Do you remember our first principle, don't you? Or is there another issue with memory as well? In praise of the error, page not found, which reminds us that with some people, we need to find new paths to make connections, because not everyone uses the same key words. In praise of servers that drop our connections, which remind us that all who serve have built-in limits to their capacity. In praise of communication and connection, whether it is face-to-face or Facebook to Facebook. We always risk errors, hurt feelings, and misunderstanding, but it is always worth the risk. Amen. Blessed be. Let it be so.
Good morning. The story that I will be sharing with you today is called The Magic Vase. And here is how it goes. Once there was a poor family, and they lived in this drab little house, and it was a neglected part of the town, and they tried to be a happy family. But times were really hard, and jobs were not easy to come by. Kind of a little bit like what we're going through right now. And as time went on, they began to feel more and more depressed. And you could see that depression etching itself into the very house that they lived in. They no longer washed the windows, they didn't tend to the garden that was out in front of the house, the paint on the door peeled, and there were cracks in the bricks. The threshold of their home showed the sadness and the despair in their lives. And one day, the eldest child left. They were roaming idly through town, and they came across a marketplace. And all the stalls were set up with the different things to sell, and in spite of their feelings, the depression that this child had, they couldn't help but get caught up in the excitement of the morning market. And they watched people selling fruits and vegetables and breads, and the smell of the flowers that were being sold in one stall just brought them back to life a little bit. And there was one stall that attracted them more than any other stall in this marketplace. And it was a little secondhand stall. It was kind of tucked away off to the side. And they never really paid any attention to this stall before, but something caught their eye this morning. So they stopped to investigate. And as they were looking among the secondhand items, they found this beautiful, beautiful vase. And they began searching their pockets because they saw this vase and they just knew, oh, we have to have this vase in our house. And so they're searching, trying to find any bit of money that they can just to purchase this beautiful vase. And all they found was just enough to buy the vase and nothing else. And so they thought to themselves, you know what? Why not? Even if we have a few lean days, I'm going to buy this vase. Mom is going to love it. I know everyone is going to love it. And so they took the money and they handed it over for this beautiful, beautiful vase. And it's kind of a little bit like Jack and the Beanstalk, right? Where Jack's supposed to go to town and sell the cow because they're on hard times, but instead of selling the cow for something useful and for good money, Jack sells it for some magic beans. And the magic beans leads to some adventure. Well, the same thing happened here. There was a bit of an adventure that this vase brought to this family. Because as this vase was being wrapped up, the stallholder said to the child, please enjoy this vase. Treat it well because it truly is a magic vase. And those words, those mysterious words were ringing in the child's head over and over. So the child brought it home, and to their surprise, no one was angry with them for spending the money, all of their money, on the vase. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Everyone seemed to be affected by this vase in the same way that the child was. So when the father saw the vase, he realized how shabby the house had become. And he went to the cellar and he got out paintbrushes and he gave the entire room a makeover. And then when a child saw how nice the room had become, they fetched a bucket of water and cleaned the window that they noticed hadn't been cleaned. And then the other child, when they noticed how clean the window was, they saw outside into the garden and saw that the garden hadn't been tended to. So they went outside and started tending to the garden and planting some seeds. And then they watered them. And then after all this took place, all through the spring, all these little things that kept dominoing effect, I saw this and then that happened. That spring came and the garden was in full bloom. And one of the children went out and they picked a flower from that garden where the seeds had been planted because they could see through the window. That was clean because the room had finally been painted, which was painted because this beautiful vase had been brought home in the midst of their despair and depression. And this child picked the flower, and they brought it home inside to the house and gave it to their mother. And the mother was so overjoyed that she took the flowers and put it into the magic vase. And it all came full circle. And it was that small, one little thing, that unexpected magic vase that brought some joy back into their life. They had for so long been depressed. And times were hard. They were still hard. But that one thing had a domino effect. They created a little bit more joy and a little bit more joy. And they were able to find those moments of joy. Now, was the vase really magic? Who's to say, right? But it did make something happen. There was an unexpected surprise to it all. And the vase itself didn't necessarily change everything. The people in the story were the ones who changed things. But it was about their change of perspective. And that is what this time has given us. This has been hard times, right? We've been stuck inside. We can't be physically together for church. Our children have not been able to go to school. Many of us have not been able to go to work. These are hard times, and I'm not going to discount that in any way, shape, or form. However, they've also forced us, like this little vase, to shift our perspective. And sometimes that shift in perspective has allowed us to see some unexpected surprise. And for me, I know for me, it has been some of the time that I've gotten to spend with my family in ways that I didn't before. Before it was so much going from, get the kids up, get them dressed, get them fed, get them off to school, go to work, come home, make dinner, eat dinner, get them ready for bed, go to bed myself, and then wake up and do it all again. And this pandemic, this time to shift our perspective has made me realize how important the moments that we spend together are, being more intentional about those moments. And I'm sure there are other things that we can think of. We think a lot more about the shift in perspective about healthcare or our economic systems. Whatever it may be, they don't have to be these grand, ideas that we think of in our mind, or these big things that need to be fixed. They can be something as simple as being intentional and being mindful about the time we're spending with our family. Everything that we go through in life is an opportunity. Yes, there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. And there are opportunities for us to look at something in a new way, just as this magic vase was. So I hope you're having an opportunity to see things in different ways, perhaps see things that you wish are different and will feel passionate about changing towards in the future. Just know that there are opportunities to shift our perspective, and the beauty of, even though all these things are shut down during this pandemic, we, even virtually, digitally, we are still here as a church family, and we will always be here for you. And we're hoping that even in the slightest that we can maybe be a little bit of that magic vase for you. So I hope you all have a wonderful morning, and I can't wait to see you all again, whether it's on the computer or in person. Much love. Have a great rest of the worship service.
Together as we walk on by, and we fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a family dose. We are family. Hey, I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Sing it to me. We are family. I got all my sisters. just begun to get our share of this world's delight. High hopes we have for the future and our goals in sight. We don't get depressed. Here's what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do. You won't go wrong. Oh no, this is our family jewel. We are family. Sing it to me. I got all my sisters and me. Sing it to me. Oh, I can hear you, y'all. Get up, everybody, and sing.
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright. Sing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright. Right there this morning, smile with the rising sun. Pretty little bird, and it's by my doorstep, singing sweet song, and the melody pure and true, saying, this is my message to you. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing's gonna be alright. Right back this morning, smile with the rising sun. Three little birds by my doorstep, singing sweet song, and the melody pure and true, saying, this is my message to you. Singing, don't worry.
At this time in our service, we pause and ask you to make a contribution to our Sunday offering. Our offering not only helps to support the work of this congregation, it helps to support our current Share the Plate partner, White Rose Outreach. Information on how to give online were included in the email that accompanied your order of service, and a link will be posted in the chat box. We give thanks for the many blessings we have each received in our lives, and we acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through these offerings. May we use these gifts wisely and well.
And so we continue in the spirit of sharing now. From the chalice flame that sheds a fountain of light, we share joys and concerns and matters of the heart, all of our hopes and dreams with one another. And this week I actually did not hear from many of you regarding specific matters of the heart. And I do want to share a couple of joys with you, and mild concern, really mostly joy. First of all, last week was John Manuel's 89th birthday. And he had a wonderful day celebrating that and gave me permission to share that news with you. Also, Phyllis Hubble and John Manuel, the former ministers, beloved ministers here, they actually had a bout of illness this past week. Phyllis tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. John did not, but they were both affected by it, and their doctors believe that the negative test for John was probably a false negative. So a candle of concern for them, although I do want to share with you that they seem to be over it. I spoke with them both last week, and they were in really great spirits and sent their love to you, and they say they're feeling fine, so they're in quarantine, and I would just like to share with you that they've had this event and ask you to hold both of them in your hearts this morning. And again, as we so often do these days, we've lit a candle of concern and sorrow for the well over 100,000 people who've lost their lives to the COVID-19 virus. Their loss, in many cases, so unnecessary, and the loss to their families is a continuing cause of concern for us. And we light a candle for them and all those who are ill, suffering from the virus at this time. And as many of you know, as I've been watching the news till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning these last several nights, the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis and other poor, innocent black men, victims of police violence. We light a candle for them in the hope that our nation will find reconciliation and forgiveness, and that justice can be available to everybody, including the black community. So we light a candle also today for all the victims of police violence. And a reminder that this afternoon, for those of you who are feeling comfortable, there will be a vigil for George Floyd and other victims of police violence in our grounds right by our Black Lives Matter from 2:30 till 4 p.m. And you are welcome to join us. And finally, we've lit a candle for all of our unspoken joys and concerns, those that we're all carrying in our hearts. We share them with you. We share them together. We magnify the joys by the sharing, and we diminish the concerns and the sorrows also. Thank you. Thank you for this moment.
Come unto me.
And now for today's homily in 4 parts. Mike, Ed, Robert, and I will present personal reflections on our experiences during this time of pandemic. And to keep it light and on point, we have reflections from the pastor of the Mount Methuselah Tower of Prayer Holy Church.
Hi, my name is Ed Stewart. I've been a member of UUCY since about 2008, though around for about 15 years, although not that active lately, although I do participate in the men's group and do get all the community emails. So one of those emails had mentioned a book discussion group by Diane. It was a Buddhist book by a collection of different authors and a number of different stories. The authors were either Buddhist or Buddhist adjacent. And it piqued my curiosity because I see it as an opportunity to rekindle some practices that have fallen by the wayside in the last couple of years, and especially the last couple months. I've really been enjoying our weekly meetings. I've enjoyed the different perspectives of the authors, but also the different perspectives of everyone in the group. We all come with a different level of familiarity with Buddhism. This kind of diversity at UUCY has always been wonderful, and I'm happy that this group didn't disappoint. Recently, someone in the group suggested we really try to meditate every day, just sit and breathe for 10 minutes. And it, of course, sounds easy. We all know it's not when it's not a habitual thing. But we really wanted to give this a try, and I definitely wanted to give it a try. And of course, the first morning got away from me with too much work, but I did find time later in the afternoon. So I muted my work phone, closed my laptop, dimmed the blinds to knock out the sun, pulled out my cushion and found a passage to read, and then sat there and closed my eyes and started to breathe. Within 1 minute, the dryer beeps, the cat comes to a visit, a neighbor starts chainsawing something, emergency sirens scream down the road out back. So there just wasn't that much noise all day. But my second attempt, I did get my 10 minutes in and have been doing it pretty well since then. I hope everybody else in the group has been faring as well. And if you'll humor me, I'd love to share a passage that I read that day. From the New Kadampa Buddhist tradition that I'm familiar with, there's some breathing meditation, but a lot of the meditation practice is around what they call an object of the meditation. It could be something abstract like kindness or compassion, but oftentimes it's something specific that has to do with a teaching, for that class session or something out of one of these books. In this particular book, there's a series of meditations and teachings. I picked one kind of randomly out of the middle. I've restarted the series so many times I didn't want to pick one in the beginning. So I got one from the middle, which was about going for refuge. And so this is kind of a promise to seek refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, where Sangha in this context is your spiritual friends who guide you to the correct path. So the meditation itself reads, I want to protect and liberate myself permanently from the sufferings of this life and countless future lives. I can accomplish this only by receiving Buddha's blessings, putting Dharma into practice, and receiving help from Sangha, the supreme spiritual friends. And so there's a lot to unpack there, a lot of Buddhist type words, but I hope you get the essence. But to me, it really spoke to me. I saw this as an opportunity to contemplate my many spiritual friends, not only in our book discussion group, but across my life. And of course, many of those people are here at UUCY. And I wish everyone could find some time to do some form of sitting meditation. It just takes some practice. Thanks for listening, and be well and stay safe.
After preparing the personal story I'll share with you, I'm feeling called to share one other discovery that is manifesting amid the world of Unitarian Universalism. My first opportunity to transform a COVID inconvenience into something doubly useful came shortly after we began our virtual Sunday services. While working at the reception desk at the hospital, I began to act out a seemingly silly scenario. Picture everyone in the hospital wearing masks, faces reduced to just eyes and eyebrows, scrunched up with uncertainty and fear. It was hard to tell, especially with unfamiliar faces, if someone was smiling or not. I sensed that many folks were feeling hidden behind their masks, as if the masks were even more of a barrier than they were intended. Masks and fear can do that. So that was my call to action. You know, it's customary to say, "Hi, how you doing? Hey, how's it going?" But who really gives an honest answer to a common greeting such as that? Especially if they're addressing someone who's not feeling their best. The greeting is a courtesy. That's it. There's little other purpose for it. So from that day forward, I stopped with the, "Hey, how you doing?" Instead, I would ask, "Hey, smile in there?" Eyes would light up. The smile would show up. Soon I was having so much fun. I did my best to make sure no mask was going to burden those smiling eyes. And when those eyes lit up, the hidden smile behind the mask became bigger, practically beaming through the mask as if to say, "I'm going to share this smile today." I discovered a simple way to serve people, to help make their day and lift their spirits. It lifted mine, too. And the other discovery, I remember the first time I began hearing memes about social distancing versus physical distancing. Soon people were discovering how our physical distancing was actually bringing folks together because they cared enough to reach out to each other more than they had been. Our Mother's Day virtual service was just one example. We collaborated with the UU congregation in Gettysburg. Reverend Terry is looking to doing more of these in the future. And now, the UUA is inviting UU congregants to join in on the Sunday worship service during the summer's General Assembly. Now, how cool is that? And you'll be hearing more details about that soon. The leaders in UUA are bringing the main event right to our doorsteps, right to our desktops. What a gift.
Good morning. My name is Mike Robinson. I'm a product of loving parents of the mostly suburban, small-town Northeast USA. Surrounded by 3 siblings, grandparents are standing, and extended family, there were norms and expectations aplenty. I, therefore, sought to escape family and those expectations of attending to birthdays, or caring for sick relatives, or attending to all manner of family functions at every turn. I'm moving away to college, moving away from my first summer job, and finally, after starting a small family of my own, moving to the Mid-Atlantic region 30 plus years ago. Much has gone on since then, including my job losses and gains, the decline and death of my parents, the dot-com bust, the attacks on 9/11, the 2008 recession, and the elections of both Barack Obama and Donald Trump. During this time, I would travel to upstate New York to visit family 2 to 3 times a year, planning the time off and saving money for the excursions. Now, with the click of 2 buttons, I'm able to see and talk to active younger nieces and nephews, my brothers and sisters, and in-laws, and learn about the coming generations. This service this morning was born out of the effort of some and the omnipresent remote technology that helps me now stay engaged in the present. Our Wednesday evening Dose of Soul gatherings, ably facilitated by Donna Alcorn, has allowed me to sit in intimacy with new and older friends, people who offer themselves and help me share who I am. This activity would go on without the shutdown. My family's Zoom sessions, however, across the many miles, help me to better know and understand the coming generations of my own family of origin. I believe that we remain and often react to norms and examples set by these family members. If you live with family, Either look at them now or listen to them in the next room. These people represent the earth from which you were born and I was born, and that you till with your own hands every day, your family fountainhead. With my 93-year-old mother still living, I still have occasional ambivalent feelings about how I was raised, frustrations at the laxities taken with my own nature. Nevertheless, Zoom sessions and her tending nursing assistants are able to connect her to these sessions, fill me with the bright joy, lights of joy and the warm feelings of family banner. The now stationary younger family members share their stories of work and daily challenges. There's talk of homeschooling and home improvements, and I would normally not be able to take these in, except now they're sitting still and I'm able to listen. Unexpected gifts, for sure. Zoom sessions have given me a chance to get to know in a more personal way people who come from the same general mindset and culture as did I. Thanks for listening.
Who knew that a bat from Wuhan, China was going to turn our world upside down, sticking us in our home caves and leave us together in the dark until we stop screeching, begin listening to the truth of our circumstances, and learn how to fly right by respecting one another's space in this new light of day. Like many other older folks, my expiration date is now under renegotiation by the universe. Notification has gone out that the extended life warranty that I have struggled to maintain, which consists of eating right and exercise and maintaining a positive attitude, has been null and void. I guess the Buddha was right when he said, life changes in the blink of an eye. And as if there aren't already enough mental health challenges in this world, the professionals are busy addressing a couple of new maladies: chronic Zoom exhaustion syndrome and ZZ, which is short for Zoom zombieism. Now, there's no need to get your knickers in a twist, as I heard they are feverishly working on a treatment protocol which may be released in another year or so. Oh, and before I forget, I want to give a big shout out and a virtual high five to all you Zoom viewers who have chosen to turn off their video screens. Or better yet, have placed a cute frozen picture of themselves on screen to fool participants in believing that they are spellbound by their Zoom presentation. Seeing my own image on screen for hours on end has exposed the naked truth. I am a sorry sight these days between my wrinkles, my crinkles, lip lines, age spots, sun damage, turkey neck, and of course those gray roots. It got me thinking that at least I could make one proactive step. So I invested in a bottle of color and a pair of professional hair scissors, and I went to town. Thank goodness only my hairdresser, whenever I get to see her, will know the mess I have truly made of things. It has motivated me, though, to consider a new line of Zoom fashion called Corona Chic. Hats are making a comeback. I also have to tell you that I am honored that YouTube has been carefully tracking me and has taken a special interest in recommending videos just for me. Videos like how the mature woman can look 10 years younger on Zoom, tips for women 55 plus making a great visual first impression. I'll save you time in visiting these sites. It's all about the lighting. So one afternoon, I spent several hours moving my computer around the house from room to room until I found the perfect light. Unfortunately, my Wi-Fi connection had a different opinion. At the end of the day, it really does come down to location, location, location. Sadly, I had to give up the notion of being seen in a good light. Anyway, I've rambled on enough about my foibles during this pandemic pause. But before I close, I do want to highlight a few unexpected gifts received through the virtual platform of Zoom that I have experienced with many of you over these last few months. Carolyn Mace, a leading voice in the field of energy medicine and human consciousness, had a short presentation on the power of grace not too long ago. In her presentation, she describes grace as a mystical substance, proven or unproven, yet palpable and present when it envelops you. She describes that when grace enfolds you, it is like a gentle wind that calms and soothes the soul. It whispers, everything is going to be okay. During these times, you have been my grace, the embodiment of that mystical substance, a grace that has sustained me, uplifted my spirit by showing up, opening your hearts, sharing your art, your animals, your strawberry preserves, inviting me into your home to chat for a while, offering your precious gift of your time and presence. It has been and continues to be a sacred journey of being in community. A line in a poem by Maya Angelou captures it all for me. We are so much more alike in our humanity than we are different. Many blessings, and I hope to see you on Zoom. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Unexpected gifts often manifest as a result of unexpected hardship, tragedy, disaster, and the like. It is so heartwarming to see how many folks come together in times like these, how they're able to relate to another's pain and sorrow, and do what they can to act with compassion and uplift their spirits. We've heard a few stories today about some of our own personal experiences and discoveries. Perhaps there were some epiphanies. A few years ago, Hurricane Harvey brought flooding and tragedy to parts of Texas. In response, two wonderful singers, Victoria White and Marquise Taylor, formed the gospel choir to lift up the spirits of hurricane evacuees in Houston. What better way to lift up our